Dr. Joe Neidhart, a psychiatrist. He's my husband as well. He's been an author and recently wrote a book called Groundswell, Indigenous Wisdom and the Moral Revolution for Climate Change. So he's going to come up and share a few words. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me be here today. I have to tell you, I'm here as an in-law. For those of you that don't know what that means, it's the person that's out at the woodpile chopping wood. All you Navajos will know exactly what that means. So, the title of my talk today is, What Might a Moral Revolution Look Like? And the book that we put together, we have 8 indigenous authors, and they address education and land use and agriculture. And so it's really a diverse book that brings about all kinds of issues. But I'd like to just ask you to think a little bit about where we might be going if we do have a moral revolution. I like to think of it as 4 broad areas. One is human rights, and we have the UN Charter of Human Rights. The rights of Mother Earth, something that we often fail to think about. Indigenous rights, we really have a huge historical debt to pay that we have not paid yet. And as you heard, in terms of the medical services that are provided, the Indian Health Service does a great job on about 1/2 the amount of money that everybody else has. And the reason it's half the amount, because they haven't really had their treaties lived up to. And the other one is economic equality. I see this as a moral issue, not only an economic issue. It's easy to find ways of taking action when you actually think about each one of these areas. For example, in human rights, you can think of feminine rights and questions about social stratification. Often in our society, we divide people according to social stratification, and so one area is not the same as another, and then we have the top 1%. Consider Mother Earth as having rights, and it's easy to see that what we're doing in the Four Corners area is not morally right. That we're the biggest area of pollution in the country when it comes to methane and CO2. So we really need to address this under the rights of Mother Earth, and if we think about that, it becomes clear what we need to do. Indigenous people have given up much of their land, and the state and federal governments own a lot of that land, and so what I would suggest is we turn over some of that land to be managed by indigenous groups. That's happening in Bears Ears, and I think it's fantastic. It's happening in Canada. There's 3 areas now in Canada that are indigenous parks that are being managed. It's interesting that the indigenous people have a history of honoring Mother Earth, and so when they think of the land, they don't think of owning the land, they think of belonging to the land. And belonging to the land, when you think of it that way, and if you think of it as your mother, you quickly start to appreciate and care for it, and care for the animals and everything else in it much more carefully. So I have no reservations about having indigenous people take over land and start to manage it in a better way than it has been managed up to date. The next question, does anybody have the right to be making 100 times more than another person? And I would say no, they don't, no matter what their job is. Now, what I would like to suggest is that we tie minimum wage to maximum wage. If we just did that one thing, minimum wage would be taken care of. Now, the UN has also brought up indigenous rights And so we have good guidelines to follow. The problem is we're not implementing the guidelines. So I'd like to bring this down to New Mexico and just go over 5 different areas that we would be wise to take and consider in the state here. One is, can we support food sustainability as part of our long-term economic planning? We keep relying on oil, and yet if we produce all the food we needed, we'd have a great economic boost just by doing that. And the Pueblos have been creating seed banks, and they have methods of sustainable agriculture that if we put into practice around the whole state, we would be in a lot better shape. Currently, we have about 4 to 5 days of food, so if the trucks stop running, we'll be out of food in about 5 days. The second thing is indigenous women have been subject to abuse, as other people have mentioned today. And one of the problems is jurisdictional issues. You've got Anglos that are on reservations that are covered by the federal government, and you've got Native people off the reservations. And so jurisdictional issues have not been addressed satisfactorily that we can guarantee that women are respected, and if something happens to them, they have the right to appropriate jurisdiction. I would say, as I mentioned before, that it's time for the tribes to manage some of the land, and I would love to see how they would do that and follow that up. Many countries are including the rights of Mother Earth in their constitutions. I would ask, what steps can be taken in New Mexico to initiate the rights of Mother Nature? And the last one, we can start level the economic playing field for New Mexico residents. I would say landed immigrants, residents, and citizens. So you get my gist here when I put those 3 categories out there. They all deserve to have a minimum wage, and I would say $20 an hour is the absolute minimum that we should be aiming at. So I'll leave you with those thoughts. I would say that it's not up to me to suggest to you what you should do, but I would ask you to think about the questions that I've raised and come up with your own moral revolution. Where would you be going with that? And let's join together, and with that energy, we can create a moral revolution. Thank you very much.